Welcome back to a brand new episode of Yuya. We're calling this the Don't Do It in Your Head episode. So if you've been following along, you'll have heard me at the end of the last episode telling you what we're going to be talking about today. Quite candidly, this episode is going to be a little bit shorter than usual. We always aim for 5 to 10 minutes. This is going to be a shorter one. But the good thing is it gives you extra time to then go away and actually maybe do some of the things that we're thinking about and actually start dreaming. As a reminder, if you're not sure where to start, the very next episode is for you. So hang in there. I'm going to be giving you a real practical exercise that you can do. Other reminder, if you want to do this in community, if you don't want to do this on your own, because who wants to play on their own, and you're not already a member of the playground yet, go to yuya.com/join. I did that last episode too. I don't know why, but I just did. So, context, the Itchy Soul Playground used to be on a different URL. It is now on Yuya. We've got all of those working together. So yuya.com/join is where you can come and join us. So the reason why it's really important, and I feel nudged to remind you to actually do this on pen and paper, you can do it with the keys and keyboard as well if you want to, rather than just doing it in your head, is that free-flowing nature, and quite honestly, quite transparently, I do like to do this pen to notebook. I mean, I do it on my Remarkable, so it's a slightly digital option, but it is actually holding a pen, and the movement. You can't always go quite as fast. I personally type faster than I write. That has pros and cons, but the nice thing about putting pen to paper, it does seem to unlock something, and it allows you that free-flowingness. I haven't got a word to end that sentence with, so we're going to just leave it there. The other advantage of doing pen to paper as well is it becomes less tempting to edit yourself. I know for myself, when I'm typing, particularly on a Mac, I don't know if Windows does this, but on a Mac, if you spell a word incorrectly, it underlines it in red. Or if it thinks you spell a word incorrectly. So say if you're in the UK and the keyboard accidentally slips into US mode, oh, chaos. But that's the advantage of putting pen to paper. You are far less likely to edit yourself. But it's really important as you start exploring this idea of what God is nudging you and niggling you about for 2021, is that you need to be open for all possibilities. We will dig into this more tomorrow, like I say, well, next episode. But what I don't want you to do, and the reminder, and I guess this is why we're spending a whole episode reminding you of this, even though on the face of it, it's a teeny tiny thing. I want you to play with this with a sense of freedom. In the next episode, you're going to hear me reminding you that the usual constraints of time and distance and money do not apply. You do not have to, when you're dreaming with God for what's next, don't let all the usual kind of, oh, well, I can't do that because I have to be back by 3 o'clock to pick the kids up from school, for example. That doesn't happen, because if you enter into this process with a sense of, oh, well, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, you actually put limits on things. And if God has taught me nothing else this year, is that he really doesn't need to be put in a box. He has so much in mind for you, more than you can probably comprehend right now. I'm quite glad. I used to say that I wish that God would give us the big picture and know where we're heading. Quite honestly, as we get to the end of 2020, I'm really glad, not just because of the COVID stuff, but the building project. Some of you heard me say before, if I'd known at the outset just how taxing it would be mentally and in terms of our resilience, I would have been really scared and would probably put me off, and it would have felt worse as a result. Instead, we had to learn to just go with it. So no longer am I going to be saying, actually, God, I wish you just show us everything. Because if we were shown everything, there's a tendency that we would get overwhelmed. Instead, as you play with this and you ask God, okay, what's next? What does that look like? It unlocks potential and it's exciting. And that actually is one of the really important pieces of why we do this, not just in our heads. If you only do this exercise as a mental exercise in your head, it's just sort of hoping and wishing. When you start putting pen to paper, you unlock potential. You also signal to your brain that it's really important. Reticular activating system, you heard me mention that last episode. I'm going to mention it again next episode. Your brain, as a reminder, your brain filters in those things that it deems important to you. That's the way that God created your mind to work. It's amazing. What's really lovely is that when you then start dreaming with God, suddenly you become open to possibilities. Maybe you've had experience of this already. There's something that you've kind of maybe played with as an idea, and then you possibly expressed it to somebody else, or you wrote it down, and then suddenly within days opportunities arrive, and it seems like, oh my word, how did that happen? It's because, for part of the reason, it's because your reticular activating system then filters in those examples where it wouldn't have done before. Now, advocates of the secret tell you it's the universe moving things. I like to speak to the creator of the universe instead. But whether you talk to the universe or the creator of the universe, it doesn't change the fact that God wired your mind to work in this way. So when you actually do this exercise and write things down, it helps signal to your brain that those things are important. That's not to say that you shouldn't then think about them. Of course you can. People like to read over things that they've written. Some people like to have them on. I mean, I've got it myself. A big thing on my desk as reminders of the promises that God has given. Those things are important. But the very first step, pen to paper, fingers to keys if you'd like to, but ideally pen to paper, and actually write down. And just dream and be open to possibility, and then go and explore what this might possibly look like. But you actually need to do it. You can't just do it in your head. With that said, in the very next episode, I'm going to be digging into what it looks like. So the next episode is especially for people who don't know where to start. If you've already played with goal setting, or you've played with dreaming with God, or you've played with, tapping into those things that God's niggling you about, I mean, sure, listen to the next episode, because there's always new things to learn, but it's particularly pertinent for those people who just don't know where to start. I'm going to be introducing you to one of my favourite writing exercises. Some people following along might already be guessing what they think that might be. You might have done it before, and if you have done it before, great. I'd be encouraging you to do it again. Quite honestly, I'm going to say it now, I'm going to be doing this exercise again, because it's been quite a number of years since I last did it. And so we're going to explore what that looks like tomorrow. But for today, a little bit of homework, if you want a little bit of homework, is if there's any resistance. We talked about resistance a couple of episodes ago. I want you to just spend a little bit of extra time there. Because I know for me, as I shared with you in the last episode, I did feel quite reticent around dreaming for 2021. Not that I was scared to dream. It wasn't anything like that. It was more like, well, okay. I almost felt like, I'm going to say this out loud, I almost felt like, okay, there's these promises that God had given me a year ago, and we're a year later and it still hasn't happened. So what's the point in dreaming? Because you give me all these promises and then nothing happens. That's where I was kind of at. Thankfully, God is loving and gracious and kind and gave me a gentle kick up the behind and said, well, actually, yeah, okay, but look where you've come. Look what's happened this year, how far you've come, and this is what's going to happen next. And I went, oh, okay, that's exciting, thank you. But if you don't take the time to dig into what it is that's holding you back, and be honest with yourself and be honest with God, He loves you. He doesn't want you to stay stuck. Unless you start by being honest, you can't then move through those pieces and then take the next step. So don't just do it in your head. You're actually going to put pen to paper. But before that, explore it. Is there anything else that's holding you back? Any other bits and pieces that are coming up? That's a little bit of homework if you like it. I shall see you in the next episode. In the meantime, as a reminder, if you are a member of the Playground, I'd encourage you to share what comes up. youear.com/join if you're not a member of the Playground. But if you are a member, itchysoul.vip is where you log in and you can share what's coming up for you as you go through this process. Anyway, thank you for being here. I shall see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.